So, to start this promo scene, your character finds himself, as he does before, in his apartment. In what was the section of town you decided you had an apartment in Duskwall?
Oh boy. I'm originally from Shar Hollow. I think I'm in Night Market.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you decided you wanted to have a nice sort of like apartment loft sort of thing in the night market. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you find yourself in your loft. You know, your day has begun. Suddenly you're awake, right? And your character now, who at one point his original name being Glenn, who now goes by Martin MacCalister, if I'm correct.
Martin MacCalister.
Martin MacCalister begins his day as he always does. He heads into the bathroom. His basin bathroom, basically. Indoor plumbing is a thing for nicer places, and Night Market has it. And your character, enjoying the finest, tends to, indulge in those sorts of things. So he does have indoor plumbing with a sort of sink that feeds water in. And so he begins, washing his face. He begins his shave routine, pulling out his trusted blade that he quickly sharpens on leather. He begins to clean, his facial hair up, being very, very, um, very.
Particular.
Yes, exactly. Very particular about making sure that he presents himself in the way that he sort of has as standards for the way that he should look. And with that, he begins to bring his clothes together. He takes his clothes from his closet, as you talked about, a specific sort of ensemble that he had thought about and perhaps chose for the day, and he sets it out, starts to iron it with a hot iron and steam, and begins sort of bringing his clothing for the day together. I know and I draw upon these things because, as we talked about, clothing was very, very important to the character. It's a part of his history and a part of who he is. And it's not just a matter of how he looks, but it's a matter of his history, right? Um, and as we talked about, your character, as he's bringing together his clothing, he starts to think on the historical importance of these different things that he wears, of why he takes such care for his clothes, of why he dresses the way that he does and looks the way that he does. Um, he thinks back to memories that he had. Would you like to share those memories? Um,
Sure.
sure. Okay.
Why not? I think I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
My family's home, and pretty chaotic household. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, thin walls. So I would generally make my way up to the attic and just escape the noise. Had a little bit of a thicker floor,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a nice big open space.
Mm-hmm.
And as I would go up there, I would go through old trunks and boxes and just checking things out as a kid does.
Mm-hmm.
And back in one corner, I came across a whole series of trunks
Mm-hmm.
that were old clothes from generations and generations ago.
From your sort of forefathers, as it would be.
Yeah,
Okay.
like all the forefathers, grandpas, great grandpas, grandmas, great grandmas,
Mm-hmm.
all the way back several generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going through them and I started noticing the intricacy of the stitching because the older clothes they made in such a more fine crafted way from a lot of
Handcrafted versus sort of factory crafted, as you might find in Duskwall these days. Yeah.
exactly the little imperfections in the stitching
Mm-hmm.
that just added to the shape of how things fell and drape off of somebody, that in the right wind or the right lighting can add just this superior ambiance
Yeah.
to a person. And I got lost in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I made.
You
I
being Glenn,
made.
of course. You being
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
Glenn. Glenn, yes, yes.
Glenn,
Just
yes.
as a reminder for the audience. Yeah.
So Glenn got lost in that,
Mm-hmm.
and he made mannequins
Mm-hmm.
out of like scraps of wood and belts that he wound together, and he draped the clothes over these things, and he taught himself to sew.
Yeah.
Uh, To be perfectly honest, I wasn't very good.
Oh, sure. He was a
you know,
kid. He was a
you
kid,
know,
right? Yeah.
and still not that good at sewing, but you
Mm-hmm.
can pay people for that.
Sure.
Um,
Well, we even say, as we talked about, that that one particular moment that really sort of set this memory in Glenn's mind or Martin's mind was when his cousin Amanda found him in the attic that one day, and she
man,
came in and she's like, "Glenn, what are you doing?"
yeah, that was a day for Glenn.
Hmm.
That that was a day.
Why
Um,
don't we just go through that scene a little bit here? We'll do a little bit of we'll add to the thing here. So
okay.
she, as I said, she walks in and she notices you and Glenn notices her, and there's this sort of moment where they're both like, "Oh, what is happening?" And then she's like, "Glenn, what are you doing?"
I am marveling.
Mar- Marveling. It looks like
Well,
you're playing house or something.
I am not playing house. Have you seen these clothes?
No, no, I haven't. These are just
Well,
old clothes.
you they're not just old clothes. Here, come here, come here.
She
I got
walks over to Glenn.
and Glenn takes her over to an old
Mm-hmm.
uh, a ceramic trunk,
Mm-hmm.
actually,
Mm-hmm.
and opens it up, and inside is a crisp white, pristine white wedding dress
Oh.
of
And she's like
somebody's.
marveled by it. She's like, "Oh, it's so pretty."
And, and holds it up in the light,
Mm-hmm.
shows her all the sheer parts, and where a person's body would be shown through the clothing,
Mm-hmm.
and how these little particular stitches here would be perfect. And here, why don't you put it on?
Oh, it's too big for me. Plus, I don't. It's your parents and grandparents. Like, I'm just your cousin, okay? But it is very pretty. I would say this though. I've seen my mom do stitching, and it seems like she could probably help you with that. I think, and I don't know much about it, but she could probably help you, right? And so you and her in that moment sort of start going over some of the stitching jobs you've been doing, and you start looking at the clothing, and then you start figuring it out how to do it, and you and her together like have this just sort of like wonderful day in your memory of just like doing stitching and things, and then like trying on the clothes. At one point she's wearing like slacks like pulled up with suspenders to her
Yeah,
chest, and walking around. At one point you're sort of catwalking around like with a hat. You're like, "Hello sir, very nice," and it's one of those moments that really sticks in your character's mind. And he sort of Martin sort of comes back from that memory, and he's finished ironing his clothes, and he's now taken out his shirt, and he's finished ironing his shirt and everything, and he's now brings his slacks on, puts his shirt in, tucks it in. Is he a belt man, or is he more of a suspenders man?
he's a belt man.
Okay, so he chooses, looking through the different selections of belts, and finds one that matches perfectly with the
Definitely a
colors.
burgundy leather for today.
Oh, there you go. Puts that belt on, sets himself up, and then now he has his nice suit on. He's got his boots on, socks, of course, all the normal clothing, and now he heads over to his dresser, sort of accessory dresser, as it would be, where he keeps his rings and watches and pocket
And
watches and
cufflinks.
cufflinks and things like that. And he starts to sort of gather the things that he might add to this ensemble today. And if I remember right, there's a specific pocket watch that he always tends to wear when he can. And as he reaches down to pick up that pocket watch, a memory sort of once again floods to his mind. If I'm remembering correctly, there was a sort of memory you wanted to share regarding the pocket watch.
Mercy.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy. Cold woman. Until you get to know her. but I I remember the first time I ever met her. It was a oh man. I couldn't have been older than 20 when I first met her, which wasn't that long ago, but still fairly young.
Mm-hmm.
And I got told by someone else had hired me to stand at a very particular spot with a bell, and then if I saw the blue coats or anyone who wasn't supposed to be there, I was to ring the bell and make a ruckus and
Draw
just
attention.
just be a general distraction, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And I watched Mercy disappear around a corner,
Mm-hmm.
and she was gone for like 10 minutes. And sure enough, I hear the boots coming down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I look and I see 4 blue coats coming down, loaded for bear,
Mm-hmm.
and looking for
Weapons
trouble.
drawn, ready, sort of a thing.
Oh yeah,
Oh
like
man.
just unabashedly walking down the street. So I start running at them with this bell, shouting at the top of my lungs. I almost got shot. You know, and I start running at them, giving a big old just loud clattering of noise,
Mm-hmm.
which I I got detained.
Yeah.
Didn't get any time for it because I
Yeah.
didn't
You
do
hadn't
anything
done anything
illegal.
illegal. Yeah, you're just being a nuisance.
Yeah, just annoying.
Mm.
But
They of course took away the bell too. Never,
oh yeah,
never
oh
to get
yeah.
it back.
No, I did. No, I never saw that bell again.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, I would love to. A nice, deep, rich tone to it.
Mm.
But I very much remember the Bluecoats walking past me after I made this racket,
Mm-hmm.
and they went into the exact same building that Mercy had gone into.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 minutes, the wardens came.
Oh. So the bells of the crematorium started ringing and the crows started circling.
Absolutely, they
The
did.
blue coats whistle went off. They start screaming about a murder or something of that nature. Eventually,
Exactly.
the bronze masked and hooded individuals that are known as the wardens show up to investigate the scene, and the blue coats are told to leave.
And they did
Mm-hmm.
with haste.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, I don't startle easily,
Mm-hmm.
but those masks are something else.
Yeah.
There's something about them that are just not right.
They are definitely eerie, the bronze seeming masks. Most people that have been close to wardens specifically, which for those of you that may not know, wardens are the sort of left hand of the emperor, whose job it is to oversee the deaths and burial rites of people. Because in this world, when someone dies, it isn't just death. Their spirit does become a ghost, and if that ghost is not dealt with, if a ritual is not performed to stop it, that ghost will come alive and will harm people and kill them and devour their life energy. So it's a very important thing to perform that ritual and deal with that spirit before it becomes dangerous for everyone. Especially with the lightning towers being the one that keep out the spirits that have died outside and travel in, right? But so and in that moment where he remembers those things and he sort of shook as he remembers the eeriness of the wardens, he sort of finds himself back now with the pocket watch. He connects it, and then sets it into his vest pouch, his vest pocket, we'll say. His cufflinks, puts them on. Checking the mirror gives his mustache, etc.
Mm,
That last little
little
bit of
little
fix.
twirl up.
He chooses a hat if he chooses to wear a hat today, unless he's deciding to leave it his head barren and with a comb.
I think today will be a bowler day.
A bowler day. So he finds himself
Hmm.
a nice bowler that mixes well with his suit, sets it on his head. And with that, he grabs his armaments, his secret, pistol or blade or whatever you've chosen for him to carry, if he even chooses to carry weapons.
Well, for the most part, he usually has a knife tucked under his belt.
Mm-hmm.
But worst comes to wear, He's always got
his
his hands.
or the
He's
weapon.
always
Okay,
got his hands.
there you go. So he's finished dressing. He heads out his door of his apartment, finds his way down the stairs, and then hits the streets of the night market, heading on his way to business. The day is a day where he had some ideas of the sort of work he might be doing. And as he's walking down the street, he hears a familiar voice yell at him. He hears a familiar voice yell, "Martin, you son of a bitch!"
Martin would slowly turn around to face this voice, give it an eye.
And you see standing there in their clothing, like they had just left the fighting pits. You see Marlene standing there, her hands still bandaged. Marlene being one of the trainers and previous champions of the fighting pits, having had history with Martin himself some time ago. They've always had a bit of a negative interaction, shall we say. And she looks pissed. She looks super pissed.
Well, a good day to you, Marlene. How may I help you?
Don't be giving me that shit. You know what you did. And as she's walking towards him, and it seems like she reaches out one of her hands like she's about to grab you by the suit.
Well, most definitely hand comes up to block that hand and dodge to the side.
Yeah, he just sort of sidesteps it. He's like, don't put your hands on my
no,
clothes.
No. I just got this pressed and ready. I'm sure we can discuss whatever it is you think that you want to do.
She's just fuming, pissed at this point. It's like she's just seeing red, and she, like, as you push away her hand, she, like, just stands there for a second as she's sort of trying to take in what you were saying, but she's still just looking at you like you've done her dirty in some way.
Now, I'm not sure why you're mad. Last time I checked, I thought we were on fairly even ground.
Yeah, that was until she says, like, trying to cut you off. She's like, yeah, that was until you took a job to beat up an old man.
I'm not sure what you mean.
I know you. I know the way you work. People pay the right price and you'll do the job, even if it's stabbing an old man in the street and leaving him bloody. I know what the fuck you did, Martin. Don't you lie to me.
Who's lying?
At this point, people are stopping, that are walking through the night market and are kind of like, what? Like they're expecting a fight at any moment. You almost feel like that they're about to start chanting like fight, fight, fight. People are watching on eagerly. Parents are pushing their kids aside like, oh, let's keep going. Like it's definitely causing a scene.
Marlene, unless you actually wish to have a fight with me in the street, and I would love to go for round 2. I don't think this would be the place. Can we go off?
She looks around for a second, notices all the people looking at her. Okay. Sure. Let's go. Let's go talk.
Her, walks her, kind of semi-leading, not touching, and not taking an
She doesn't let you
her.
fall behind her, by the way. She either keeps you right next to her or in front of her. Like she's expecting you to maybe try and cut and run or something at any point in time.
Try and find a nice secluded place.
You'll find yourself at, like, we'll say, like, a nice, like, because it's sort of the morning, even though in Duskwall there's only a few hours of daylight each day. It's kind of like Alaska in the winter. So there's only a few hours of daylight each day. It's morning, and so the light is slowly starting to rise over one side of the horizon. And so people are going about their jobs, doing business. So you find yourself at like a sort of like a bistro tavern sort of thing, but it's not too busy being early in the morning. You're able to find a secluded booth off to one side, away from other people. She begrudgingly, like, sits down. One of the waiters comes over.
I think coffee.
Yeah, sure, says Marlene. You buying, right?
Absolutely.
Can't afford that.
Why wouldn't
stuff. I don't know. You look like you can afford it, though, she says, sort of sneering at you.
Again, with the widest grin that I can possibly make. And that's the point, isn't it? To look like I can afford anything and everything. But, but, I wouldn't necessarily say what I did for who and for what is any of your business.
Yeah, I'll have a coffee, Marlene says to the waiter, and then they they say 2 coffees, and they seem like they're like, I caught you in an awkward moment. Okay, 2 coffees, coming right up, and then they walk off and back away from this awkward conversation that they seem to have accidentally walked into, kind of a thing. Okay, Marlene says as they sort of like lean over. You're saying you didn't do it? Do you know a man by the name of Aldo? Lives in Char Hollow, Wicker Street. Does that sound familiar?
I think it does. I think it's a name that I've heard before.
There was a small gang in Char Hollow some years ago. He was the leader of them. He's kind of a figurehead in the city. And you being a boy from Char Hollow, I presumed you would know who Aldo was.
I do.
I mean, I don't know what family you're from, but I've heard you're from there. So do what you can.
Well, originally I was from there, yes.
Okay. So then tell me this. If you didn't attack Aldo, which I know by your reputation, especially over the time since you and I were working together in the pits and you were training and fighting, and we had, let's just say, our difference of opinions, shall we say. You since then, at least the word on the street is you're willing to do whatever needs to be done. Someone will pay the right price, either you or one of your crew.
Well, currently I'm in between crews at the moment, but someone's going to do it, and I would rather it be done by someone who knows what they're doing.
Okay.
Especially if I can make an honest coin.
Think attacking an old man on a date is honest coin?
The grudges between other people are not my concern.
Sure. I'm just saying the whole thing stinks, okay? I'm saying you or one of your crew or one of your people that you know, do they know who did it? I want to find the person. I was told a Skovlander did it, was hired to do it. You're not Skovlander, but I know you're smart enough to cover up your own tracks, spread misinformation. You're the first fucking name I thought of when I heard that Aldo was attacked. I know you, and I know the reputation you've been building.
Then if you know my reputation, may I suggest you not test it?
Well, I know that it's bullshit, okay?
Really?
You and I have gone pound for pound, friend. Well, you threw a few, I threw a few. We did our fight. I know where you stand. I know you're pretty good. You're good, definitely. But you're not the best. You're not the best. I've trained the best. I've seen the best. That's not you, friend. You could have been the best.
I don't need to be the best fighter to get where I want to go.
Sure. How about this? How about this? I'll pay you if you can find out who did this to Aldo. Ask your people. I don't care if you don't want to look into it yourself, that's fine. I just want you to ask your old crewmates who are pretty well connected, and you're pretty well connected yourself, who paid to have Aldo attacked.
You really expect me to give someone up?
If the coin's good enough, my friend, I presume you will. I'll make it worth your while. There's got to be a line, Martin. Old men getting attacked in the street for their purses? Come on.
I do have a line. And that line is selling information to people that don't need to know it.
I'm going to find out either way, but if you want me knocking at your friend's doors and asking questions or telling the wrong people where your friend Mercy is, I got no problem doing that.
Martin leans really, really, really close,
Mm-hmm.
almost nose to nose with Marlene.
Yeah.
Two things. One, if you go after Mercy, that's your own soul. Two, if you go after Mercy and it doesn't end well for her, it will not end well for you. And just
She
stares her dead in the face.
she sort of settles into looking you right in the face, like she, you know what I mean? Like she's done this 100 times, just like you have. You know, she's solid. You know, she's a seasoned fighter. She knows when people gotta put up or shut up, right? So she just looks right back at you. She's like, I don't want to cause waves. I just want to know who hurt my friend. Okay? He didn't deserve this.
And Martin, at this point, leans back in his chair, taking a much more relaxed posture. And you can want to know, and as I believe you put it at one point, bleed in the other and see which fills up faster. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have pressing business. And Martin begins to get up to leave.
Okay. She just sits there and lets him leave.
I throw a couple. I throw some coinage down to pay for the coffee as I leave, and I make sure she sees it as I walk out.
Mm-hmm.
Drops it on the counter.
Okay. So what does Martin do now as he leaves?
Martin steps back outside.
Mm-hmm. The hustle and bustle of the city around him, especially the night market.
Starts straightening his clothes back up, making sure there wasn't anything out of place or stolen. I'm gonna have to hurt so many people, he says to himself. Pointless. Absolutely fucking pointless.
Okay.
And begins going about his routine that was interrupted,
Okay.
rightfully so, but interrupted nonetheless.
Sure. So he checks in on a couple of jobs. He asks around, about future jobs that he might have or things like that. Like, I presume he occasionally checks in with, like, bookies and things like that. What is the way that Martin sort of conducts himself in business? Like, what is the specific sort of jobs he's usually looking for? Why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Well, for the most part, he knows he knows a lot of the moneylenders
Okay.
in town that charge a very large markup. Not any necessarily by name, but he's building a rapport with them as a collector, as a collection agent for these people. And I mean, at this point, he's got about 3 or 4 different offices he stops by, check to see if they need anything collected, see if anybody's past due, and what level of reinforcement that the lendee needs to come forward with his payment.
Okay.
And then goes to work.
Okay, and so he stops by a few places and he, does his normal sort of business thing, making sure people are paying their debts, and most of the people have. They said, I've paid it, yeah, or they'll be like, I'll have it tomorrow if that's okay, there's that sort of thing. And so he's able to sort of go through his day of basically being a quote unquote debt collector, for varying sorts who are willing to pay top dollar. And then, after a hard day's work, he finds himself. Where would he find himself? Wasn't it his vice of choice? Was the
Dundridge and Sons.
Dundridge and Sons. So he finds
Yes.
himself at Dundridge and Sons at sort of the end of his day. He figured, he's in that part of town. He might as well stop by.
Well, of course, I need to see if they got anything from what is it, Arosi?
Akarosian?
Akaros.
I mean, that's where you are. That's where Duskwall is on the Akaros continent. You're thinking of
Right.
Aruvian or
Yes,
Aruvian?
Aruvian.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Aruvian style doesn't really work for my frame very well.
Sure. Sure.
It's meant more for a lithe
Sure.
frame.
Sure.
However, it has some of the best fabric, and they
Yes.
still do a majority of handcrafting with their clothing.
They do. Yes.
And uh, their stitches are like surgically precise.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
So
I'm in
Martin
awe.
finds himself at Dundridge and Sons, one of the finest clothes providers, most notable clothing provider, shall we say. There's tons of other ones, but one of the most notable ones in town. And he walks in, he finds the familiar face of some of the family members of Dundridge, and he sees a face standing behind the counter he doesn't quite recognize, in fact.
Walks up to the counter to the
Mm-hmm.
person.
It's
Excuse me.
a younger man, probably his mid-20s or something of that nature.
Excuse me, young master.
Oh, yes. How can I help you, sir?
Well, I frequent this establishment a lot,
Yes.
many times a week,
Mm-hmm.
and I have yet to see your face before. I
Ah.
thought I'd make introductions. The name's Martin Macalister.
Oh, very nice to meet you, Martin. Um, my name is Alex Dundridge. I'm a member of the family, cousin to the Dundridge family, and I've been asked to work today to help cover for the family.
Oh, well, that's very strong familial ties. I
Yes,
approve.
yes,
I approve.
of course.
And
I believe I've heard your name around. Hold on one second. And he goes back and he checks through some things like some receipts and some things like that. Ah, yes, Mr. MacCalister. Yes, you had a hem job that you asked for on a specific pair of slacks, if I'm correct. It seems you did most of the work yourself, but you asked for Dundridge himself to put a little work in for you, perhaps to show you some of his tricks, as it would be.
I do recall ordering that job. Yes.
Yeah, so the job is finished. My cousin finished the job, Mr. Dundridge, of course. I presume you heard he's taken ill recently, and so he's stepped away from the shop.
I did hear that. My condolences.
Oh yes, he's doing fine. It's just something, just a little bedridden for the time. He'll get over it soon, though, of course.
Well, of course.
But let
That's
me get
his
those
way.
slacks for you, friend. And he steps back into
Please.
the back, and he's gone for a minute or so, and then he comes back with a sort of set in a bag, big paper bag sort of thing. And he comes out and sets it down. He's like, I believe these are yours.
Pulls over the bag, looks
Mm-hmm.
inside the bag,
Mm-hmm.
checks the pants, pulls up, or checks inside,
Mm-hmm.
looks at the hem job,
Mm-hmm.
looks down below to see whatever else is in the bag is supposed to be there. It's there, if anything.
I don't believe you pay. You're given protection from Dundridge and Sons. They're supported by the wealthy elite. They don't need protection. They're protected by the wealth itself. So, perhaps there was like some slacks in there and like a personal note or something. But this wouldn't be a place that your character would get protection money from because they are well funded.
Right. But I don't know. This is a new person.
Oh, I see. You're wondering if something's amiss or whatever.
Exactly.
I see. No. There's nothing strange in the bag or anything like that. Just your slacks and a personal note from the Dundridge family saying thank you so much for your business. It's always wonderful to see you, friend.
Pull it up and
Of course, with an apology for it taking so long. It was only supposed to take a week, and it's now been like 3 or 4 weeks.
well, that's understandable. Very understandable coming down to ill. And Martin begins to look at the hem job and comparing notes between his sewing, or
Mm-hmm.
at least where it was,
Mm-hmm.
and the sewing that has been done.
You can tell that the sewing is done as this sort of mixture between fine hem jobs, like you would see in very, very fine clothing, and like mixed with hemming that's done for like workers, right? Because Dundridge and Sons, although they may be they may be supported by the wealthy, they provide very good prices so that even the average worker or something could afford a nice pair of slacks or something on their lower shelves, as it would be. So he's used to mixing up hem jobs between function and fashion, and you see that mixture in his hemming of of the um, the slacks themselves, especially because presumably the tear was something from like you getting into a fight or something in a nice suit. So it seemed like he gave you a little bit more hem job done, but he hid it quite well. So it still seems like a very fine hem job, but underneath, as you look and you recognize it seems like it's been more supported. I'm not familiar enough in real life
Reinforced.
yeah, but reinforced would be the term, like something more reinforced to be able to handle your sort of shall we say, the things you get up.
Enthusiastic activities.
Yes, enthusiastic activities, indeed, yes.
Oh, well, he's done it again. Masterful job. Um, take out the coin that I was to pay for the slacks.
Oh, no, sir, you've already paid. No need to pay.
Well, all right then. Thank you very much.
No problem. Have a wonderful day, Mr. MacCalister.
I will do my best. Please remind me of your name again. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't believe I introduced myself. You can just call me, my nickname amongst the family is Winslow. You can just call me Winslow MacCalister or just Mr. MacCalister, whatever you prefer.
Okay, well, Winslow, it was a pleasure to meet you, and
Very nice to meet you too.
I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Yes, of course.
Takes his slacks in his bag and continues to walk around the store to check to see if they have any new colors in the favorite style that Martin likes. Noticing that it's only been 2 days since he was here last. Not much has changed.
Yeah.
And
as he's looking at some clothing, he looks over at the window, there are two large windows at the front of the shop, and he hears a tapping on the window, and he looks over and he sees a familiar face looking at him, tapping, and then turning their back to the thing like they're looking at the street to see.
Yeah. Make my way outside and get over to in front of the window, bend down and check my shoe, retie my shoe, because more than likely it's come untied by now.
You see the familiar lithe frame of Mercy, who's now hooded, like they're covering their face, trying to act like they're almost like a homeless person or something like that. And they sort of look down at you and they're like, Martin, what are you doing out here?
Picking up clothing.
There's huge heat on the street. They're looking for me. Presumably that's tied to you somehow. What have you heard?
I know someone's looking for who injured Aldo.
Who's Aldo?
It's a guy from Char Hollow.
I haven't heard about him. I heard something else. They're looking for some guy, some Skovlander or something.
I heard the same. I'm not entirely sure who that is. I intend to find out.
No. I'm talking about something. Come here. And she like grabs you by your shirt and sort of drags you into an alleyway.
Get into the alleyway. Immediately starts to, press down his collar again. His lapel
Don't
again.
just listen to what I'm having to say, because I need to go, and I need to go quickly. Okay, this is like. Okay, remember that job we did where we had to lay low for like 3 weeks? I'm starting to get the feeling that this is going to be like that. Whatever this is, something's going on. People are asking questions. Okay, people think that you know something, Martin, and I don't know what they think you know. I just know they're looking for you, and they're looking for me. One of the investigators was snooping around my place. Okay? And now I got blue coats outside my joint.
That's unfortunate.
Something big's going on, and they're looking for someone. I heard they were looking for a Skovlander. That's what I hear. There's some guy, some big wig guy that no one wants to fuck with, like Lord Strangford or something like that.
Strangford.
Yeah, he's somewhere, some guy out in Six Towers. But I'll tell you what, I don't know much about the name, but I can tell you that I've heard that name used before, and it wasn't in good ways. Okay?
Seems like it'd be an interesting challenge. But you know me, I'm somewhat reckless.
Okay, yeah, you are reckless, and that's why I came here to talk to you. I figured you'd be here or somewhere nearby here. You usually stop by here, once a day or whatever.
Not every day.
You're a creature of habit, Martin. That's the problem. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You need to lay low for a bit.
Okay.
Get a flop house somewhere else in another part of town. Lay low for a few days. Don't come back to your apartment, though, okay? I'll have somebody check in, though, and see how it is. And if you need anything, we can go a roundabout way, though. I'm just saying, if they're looking for me, they're probably going to be looking for you, because people know we've worked together, okay?
Very true. You're a good friend, Mercy.
It's all good, Martin. You know how it is.
I do.
Just keep in mind this Stringford guy. He's looking for some guy named Ezra or something like that. Some bigwig or something that went missing or something. There's a big price on this Ezra guy, okay? Big price, and apparently Stringford's willing to pay it, and he's also willing to knock down anybody in the way of helping him find that guy. I don't know what it is. Maybe he owes him money. Maybe he stole something from him. I don't know. All I know is right now there's big movements going on. Big movements.
And somebody thinks that I know something about this person?
Somebody thinks that you know something. I don't know. You've got your finger on the pulse in Night Market, man. You hear a lot of shit, right? Apparently somebody thought they saw him in the Night Market. You know?
Oh boy. Well, that's a little bit of a disturbance. That's a lot of a disturbance, actually. Thank you very much for the heads up.
No problem. No problem. Just keep in mind, if you for some reason get it in your head to do the stupid here, Martin, and you go looking for this Ezra guy, I'm just telling you, I don't think it's worth the money that the Stringford guy's offering. I've heard some bad shit about this dude. I've heard some like, you work for him and you disappear sort of shit. You know what I'm saying?
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, I'll see you in a couple weeks. We'll meet back at the... Remember where we did the dockside job? Remember where we meted up after that?
I do, yes.
I'll meet you up there in a couple weeks, okay?
Okay.
You take care.
I will.
She gives you a quick hug in the middle of you talking, and then just like bounces.
Mm-hmm. Give the quick hug. Immediately kind of evaluate where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Do the quick mental map in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna get wet, aren't I? Damn. Oh well. And I start making my way back to a friend of mine in Char Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
Through back roads and alleys and, avoiding the cabbies.
Mm-hmm.
Avoiding public transit.
Mm-hmm.
Except when necessary to use like a ferry or a barge to cross a river.
Mm-hmm.
And make my way back to the old stomping ground.
Mm-hmm.
Go and I'm gonna see if I can't find Amanda's house, actually. See if she'll keep me for a couple of days.
Okay. So you head over to Amanda's house and you see that it is empty. Like no one's there. Like you knock on the door, no one answers. You eventually open the door. You're like, Amanda, are you here? Nobody there. See that the place looks turned over.
Start going room to room looking for blood, looking for weapons, looking for anything
In the bedroom, you find what looks like a pool of blood that's been sort of sopped up by something, but there's like a leftover sort of, smear of it.
Martin just falls to his knees in the middle of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the puddle of blood.
Mm-hmm.
In the floor. And he's doing everything he can to not rage destroy everything in the house.
Okay. As he's sort of sitting there.
Amanda,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
will find you. I will find you, Amanda. And if anybody hurt you, not even the wardens will stop their spirits from coming forth.
You hear the sound of the creaking door open, and a man steps inside.
Stand, whip around to face him. Look him up and down.
You're like, what you doing in here? Seems to be wearing simple street clothes. There's a knife in his hand. Blade.
I came to see a dear friend of mine. You wouldn't know what happened to her, would you?
Can't say that I do. All I was told was that if I saw anybody come in this place start snooping around, I was supposed to make sure that they weren't seen anymore, shall we say?
Well, then I'd say you picked the wrong person.
From where I'm standing, it looks like you picked the wrong house to walk into.
Reaches over to the four-poster bed that's in the bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and with extreme ease just breaks one of the posts off.
Well, he needs to wrench into it. But yeah, he's like, and breaks it off, and the dude's like, what the fuck?
Just breaks it off, kind of slaps it in his hand like a baseball bat.
Mm-hmm. The guy stops for a second, and he whistles. He's like, whoop! And you see, like, one more guy come in behind him.
Oh, you brought a friend. This'll actually be a fair fight. Let's go.
And I think with that, in that moment, I think we can call this scene to an end.
And with a mighty roar.
Yes, with a mighty...
He charges!
With a mighty roar, he charges. And we will end the scene right there. Because I think we all know how that fight ends.
Yeah, with two dead morons. Well, not dead, but two beat the fuck up morons.
Yes. Definitely. Awesome. That was a great scene.